Okay. Well, I guess I'm gonna try to. I've been putting this off. Um, the storyboard. I guess I'm gonna try going into the post event. I'm gonna try a different approach though, with the post event. What I want to do and what I'm gonna try to do here is just like try to grab the most glaring things from the post event, and then instead of just starting at the beginning of the post event and going over it with the fine tooth comb, though I think that would be better. I've been putting it off because I just don't want to have to it's just, so I'm trying to find an easier, softer way, you could say, I guess. So I'll just want to try this as an experiment. And I'm really just drawing from memory. I haven't planned what I'm going to say or nothing. All I planned is I'm just going to try and grab the most glaring things that happened in the post event, like after the event happened. So we'll start when I found out about the fire. So I found out about the fire. Man, I mean, yeah, I guess I have to kind of backtrack. So the police, directed me, strongly suggested that I go to this job in Texas when all this was going down with the murder investigation, the death threat, and all this crazy shit that happened during the event. So after the event, the event is what drove me by the police's direction, drove me to go do this job in Texas. The reason I didn't want to is because I was having such a meltdown from all this trauma, like all this trauma happening in just this 1 week. It was like an insane amount of trauma, and my job is dangerous, And so if I'm having a fucking mental fucking crisis meltdown, and my boss has me driving a forklift and shit, that could potentially cause problems. So I didn't know if I should go to the job or not. I mean, I wanted to go to get away from all of this, but then I didn't want to go because I was having a fucking massive fucking meltdown, and I didn't want to hurt somebody driving the forklift and all these potential things that could happen. But then the police told me to go. They told me I need to go and get the fuck out of here. So I just was like, oh, fine, hey, I'll comply, whatever. It's easier. They made up my mind. It was easier that they made up my mind because I was in a dilemma. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I should go to the job or not. I was like in a total fucking full-on fucking mental health crisis, man. And so when the police said that I need to go to that job, I was like, hey, good. Now someone else make up my mind for me. Makes it a lot easier for me. So I left. And then I was only gone a week when the whole fucking place burnt to the ground, including the 4-bedroom house, a 2,000 square foot storage building, and the RV that me and her lived in. And it's just all coincidence that a week earlier, or like not even a week, it was like, well, yeah, a week earlier, I had gotten a death threat and found out about this murder investigation. This is all coincidence, right? I'm sorry, I just can't help but laugh every time I think of that as that might be what it is. It might just all be coincidence. It's so fucking hilarious to think about that. And the thing that's even funnier is most people like to rationalize this all the way as, oh, this is all just coincidence. This guy's tripping, man. This guy's fucking crazy. It's like, it's laughable. I guarantee if it happened to them, they wouldn't be viewing that as coincidence at all. And I would love to get a mathematician to quantify the odds of all of these things happening in this fucking tiny week and 2 week period? What are the odds that all these things could just be coincidentally happening? I'm sure the odds would be like 1 in a million or some shit. You know, that old saying, what are the odds, you know? So anyways, so I'm in Texas. The fire, I found out about the fire a week into this 2 week job. And then I just melted down even more. It just totally like another more trauma, like fucking crisis after crisis. And I'm just like, dude, I can't even keep it together. I can't keep it together at all. And fucking my boss has got me driving forklifts and moving thousands of pounds of material, and fucking it's a dangerous fucking job, dude. I've almost died doing that job. It is a dangerous fucking job. So anyways, so what are the glaring things, okay? Well, the first glaring thing is that I had no plan. Because all this happened out of nowhere, I was faced with basically two choices. Either just once the job is done in Texas, I got my backpack and enough survival gear or whatever, I could just throw my backpack and just wander off into the Dallas city, the streets of the city of Dallas, and just go live homeless and disappear. But see, that's what they want. This is the whole goal. That's flee. Fight or flight. And so that was one of two options. I could just flee. I had all my gear. I was in Dallas. I could have just taken my gear, got my pay, told my bosses thanks, see you later, and just walked into the streets of Dallas and just disappeared. But again, this is what they wanted. You don't see, if you can suspend your belief enough to actually consider that this was all a conspiracy against me, and they had certain specific outcomes they were hoping for, and one of them was, of course, that I go be homeless, you know, that I'm fucking eating out of dump. And also, if I were homeless, it would isolate me even more and make me easier to disappear, to unalive, right? If I'm homeless, then I don't have, who do I got? Nobody. I'm just another bum out on the streets that nobody cares about. It's easier to kill people like that. It's easier to kill like people that are homeless and stuff like this, and elderly's homeless. Like, dude, you don't even realize how many homeless people they've disappeared. But whatever, that's whatever. So yeah, I had two choices basically: flee, which is just go disappear into the streets of Dallas, or come back to this town, because everything I owned was in this town. My RV, it's a mini RV, you know. It's a little smaller than this. It's about half the size. My RV is about half the size of this, and then you got the cabin. But my RV was here. Everything I owned is here. So I had very limited options. It was basically fight or flight, which is, again, this is exactly what they wanted. See, if somebody wants to conspire against you, the basic goal is to back you into a corner where you feel that there is only fight or flight, and that's how they get you. Especially if they have the numbers and you're alone, and they back you into a fight or flight situation. Well, if you fight, you're going to lose. And if you flee, you're going to lose. Either way, you lose, right? If you flee, you're likely to lose. You stand to lose, you know, shit like shelter, fucking whatever. Hold on. So yeah, it backed me into a corner. Okay. And so then I realized I wasn't sure what to do, but I didn't have any choice. It was like either just go wander off into the streets of Dallas with my backpack, or get a ride with my bosses back into town. And so the most logical thing I'm not gonna. The most logical thing was to not wander into the streets of Dallas, but it was a lot more difficult decision than you might think. I mean, I was like, this is crazy shit. So I realized, well, I'll just jump in, and get a ride back with them. I mean, and I can think about it on the 20-hour drive or whatever, because I could decide halfway through the drive that I'm just going to take my backpack and wander off, and then wherever we happen to be, I'll just tell them, here, pay me my money. I'm just gonna camp out here. I'll see you guys later, So I ended up riding back because that gave me more time, which is actually the third option, to fawn. So when you get backed into a fight or flight situation, the more a person is aware of the third option of fawning, the better they are. The more aware a person is of the concept of fawning or freezing, the better they are. So I was able to kind of, rationalize enough that, well, I can just fawn on this 24-hour drive back here from Texas, and that'll give me more time to figure out what do I want, what can I do. So I just fawned, right? And then I realized, like, during this drive that it really is a fight or flight. There isn't much I can do in this situation. And I was calling friends and stuff and trying to get, advice from others and everything. And then I just had to make the decision on my own. And so I decided, fuck it, I'm just going to go back into this town. So the town, at this point, there's only 1,000 people population here, right? The winter season is over, so there aren't like 700,000 people here. There was only like 1,000, and the majority of this town, they're all part of this organized crime. And so I'm coming back into this town alone, because the majority of my associates that I've that I have in this town, they only come here during the winter. Those are my main associates. Outside of them, I might have one or two people, but I never really concerned about that, because, like, why would I be? Who cares? I like my solitude. I don't need to be around my associates all the time, and I kind of like the solitude out here. So, you know what I mean? That's the way I always looked at it until I got into this situation. Now that I'm in this situation, like, I come back to this town is the most logical option, because everything I own is here. And so then I realized, the principle of it is to fight. Fight is the only best principle. And I wasn't coming into this town like looking for a fight, but what I realized is by coming into this town, as opposed to just taking my backpack and disappearing into the streets of homelessness, by coming back into this town, I'm coming in alone, so the numbers are way against me, which is all by design. This is all part of the whole conspiracy against me. The numbers are against me. I'm totally alone, and my Psycho X has this whole witch cult, and there's ties and association to the organized crime here, and then all these fucking complicit assholes that live here. So I'm coming here alone against basically almost an entire town, unarmed and without a plan. Like, I don't even know what I'm going to do when I get here, but I decided that's the fight I'm entering. And so it was scary. I have to admit, it was scary, but I realized, fuck it, I'm coming into town. I don't give a fuck. Okay. And at this time I was still running my channel, and these guys all know about my channel, because they're all conspiring with my Psycho X, and my Psycho X knows about my channel and everything. So they're all watching my channel. They were monitoring my channel and everything. And so I just put out a video halfway back here from where we were coming and said, I'm fucking coming, man. I'm coming, you motherfuckers. I'm unarmed. I'm alone. And I'm coming back. And so fuck you. Like, let's do this then. Let's fucking do this. This could be the last fucking video you ever see of me, and I don't give a fuck. I'm coming back. You cunts. And so I rolled into town. And it was scary. It was scary, dude. Like, I got nobody out here. And, I'm unarmed outside of my pocket knife, which, by the way, I need to. My little everyday carry ritual here. I just changed my pants this morning. Anyways, my everyday carry. So, I got this. You'd be surprised how effective these fuckers are. Especially with as few people that actually know how to fucking hit a target with a firearm. Statistically, most shootings are at close range. Are in at such close range that I could stab somebody at as close of a range as a fire. Statistically, gunshot wounds and fatal gunshot are statistically, they're like, most of them are at point blank, like at very close range. The same range that I would have to stab a motherfucker. So knives can, it's arguable that knives are the better weapon to firearms. So I got this, and there's my little razor blade. So anyways, whatever. So I come into town with my pocket knife with this whole fucking group of fucking witches and fucking organized crime conspiring against me for God knows why. No reason at all. Just because they can. It's some satanic ritual. No reason at all. Like literally no fucking reason other than they can. Because they run this whole town. So I come into town, and again, I'm telling you, it was scary, bro. I'm not going to fucking lie. I won't lie to you. So I came into town, and so the first thing I did, the property owner that me and my psycho ex lived at, that was his 4-bedroom house. That was his 2,000 square foot storage building. Okay, and then the RV, all fucking gone. It looked like a bomb went off, dude. I hadn't even seen it. I still hadn't even seen it. It is ridiculous. Okay, so I get back, and my RV, my mini RV, is parked on a separate property of his, because that's what he told me I could do, because I still had 6 months left of rent I had paid. So he told me to park my RV on his other property, and I could just live the remainder of my 6 months there. And in the meantime, he'd try to help me figure something out. Okay, so when I get back into town, well, all my shit's there, so I go straight there, and all of a sudden, this dude's like totally freaking out on me. And he's like wanting to interview me with his cell phone, recording me and asking me all these questions, like, because he thinks I had something to do with it. Well, because that's what the whole town was saying. Like a bunch of people in town, those fucking witches and all the organized crime people were trying to convince the whole town that I started the fire, dude. People actually in this town were saying that I started the fire because none of them knew that I wasn't in town. They didn't know I had left town, or a lot of them didn't. And that might have been what they were banking on, is people didn't know I left town, so they're hoping. So they tried to frame me for the fucking arson. They burned the shit down and then tried to frame me for it. So this fucking property owner guy that I was renting the property from, that we were living, I had to go to his place. And so then he's all tripped out, and he's acting like he's the victim. That he's the victim. And he's like looking at me like I'm the fucking perpetrator and shit. And I'm like, what the fuck, right? So immediately, It's like shit's on immediately. Okay, and so then that happens. And then I did have one friendly who I thought was friendly, but that's a whole other story. Like, I mean, the story is fucking endless, dude. So I go to this other friendly's place to try to get them to help me a little bit. Any help I could get. I mean, I'm not going to put nobody out, but I do need a little bit of help. I mean, I'm in all kinds of shit going down. And actually what it was is I needed an address to get some shit sent to me. I can't remember what it was. And so the friend I had been talking to, this friendly, I'd been telling him all this shit that's been going on. I mean, they were one of the only people in this town that I could talk to. And it was important to have somebody in this town to talk to, because I mean, I could talk to my associates in California or something, but like someone in this town is what I needed, because then I could corroborate things. They could go and look at the fire. They might have information that I'm unaware of, which this person did. This person was friends with the family of the guy that got murdered. And so anyways, I'm interacting with her a little bit, and then I get a call. I believe I ran into another friendly. But this other friendly lives like 30 miles away, so I wasn't even expecting to talk to them or anything. And really the idea of talking to them hadn't even crossed my mind, because they're just a friendly associate. Well, I ran into that person. And so I was like, and then as soon as the person ran into me, the person's like, dude, I got to tell you something. I got to tell you some crazy shit. And I was like, dude, I got some way crazy shit to tell you. And she's like, okay, well, let me tell you mine first. I think I know what you're going to tell me, but let me tell you mine first. I'm like, okay. And so this friend of mine starts telling me, okay, this friend of mine, I'm going to call her the nurse. She starts telling me this story. And what it was is, like 10 hours before the fire happened, which was either on October 13th or October 15th, she ran into my Psycho X at the store, the local store. She happened to be in town, even though the nurse lives like 30 miles from here. The nurse happened to be in town like 10 hours before the fire and ran into my Psycho X at the local store. I mean, this is such a long-ass story. It's ridiculous. So the nurse has no idea of anything that's going on between me and my Psycho X. She sees my Psycho X at the store with the dog, and the nurse is like just happy to see my Psycho X. First of all, she doesn't know my ex is a psycho. Nobody did. Nobody knew. And she's also happy to see the dog. And so she's like, hey, Christina, hi, Luna. And she starts petting. She just, because everything that was going on between me and my ex, it was all like positive. There wasn't like a bunch of negativity and shit. Like, it was generally positive. That's another reason why none of this makes any sense, how this just happened out of nowhere. And so none of it makes any sense to anybody. Okay, and so when the nurse had this encounter with my Psycho X, like, she was totally like, what the fuck? Like, it went from, hey, Christina, hey, Luna, to like, boom, like a bunch of crazy shit all of a sudden in the store. So my Psycho X, as the nurse is petting the dog and happy to see the dog and happy to see her, then my Psycho X, the first thing that my Psycho X says, did you hear that me and Storytime broke up? Me and Storyboard broke up? And then the nurse was like, what? Like, stood up and was like, what? What the fuck? No, what are you? And then my psycho ex proceeds to tell the nurse this big lie that I destroyed her RV, which she had been telling everybody from day one for like 2 weeks straight. She's telling everyone in this town that I destroyed her RV. Which, dude, like, is a complete lie. From day one, it was like a massive lie. And this is another thing that's weird. I never seen this girl, I never known her to be a liar, let alone like a pathological liar who is just like blatantly telling just total lies. Never seen it. We lived together for 3 fucking years. Me and my psycho ex. So anyways, so she's telling the nurse, which was a mutual friend, my friend and her friend. She's telling the nurse that I destroyed her RV. This, mind you, this is 10 hours before the whole fucking place burnt to ashes. And so she's telling the nurse that I destroyed her RV. Which, first of all, this is the deal. For any of you that might think, oh, how do I know, or whatever. Dude, like, it's impossible, okay? Because, look, so I tore everything down. And everything that I did to make the RV nice and livable for me and her, I took it all down without damaging any of her shit because I knew exactly what I was doing. I am not stupid. I know I'm not a fucking genius, but I'm not fucking stupid. And so on day one of the event, I took everything down. It all came down. And her RV went back to the way it was before me and her got together, which is complete night and day difference. It basically looked like a Breaking Bad RV when we got together. I made it fucking beautiful and nice. So on day one of the event, when I got back from Denver, I just put everything back to, okay, this is what you want. Here's your RV the way it was before we got together, without damaging any of her property. And within 2 days, she had brought the cop over. Like, this is during the event. She brought a cop over, and the cop walked in, and all the fence was all fucking taken down. Everything was down. It was a disaster. The yard was a complete disaster, and the inside of the RV was just stripped back to what it was before me and her got together. And so, if I had destroyed her RV, the cop would have arrested me because he was right there. Because she was already telling everybody that I destroyed her RV before she even brought that cop over. Like a day or two before she brought the cop over. So she's telling everybody on Facebook and everything that I destroyed her RV. It was hilarious. And it was hilarious to me because I knew I didn't. Because I was very consciously aware of what I was doing and methodical about the whole thing the whole time of everything I did. So I knew I didn't damage any of her property, yet she's telling everyone that I destroyed her RV. Then a day or two later, she brings a cop over, and the wake of destruction is everywhere. All that shit was mine. I built the yard and the fence, and it was all down. Everything was completely disassembled and just in a big pile in front of the RV. And so the cop could have very easily tried to accuse me of destroying her RV, but he didn't. Because I didn't destroy anything. Anything that might have appeared to have been destroyed was all my shit anyway. So, but she kept up this lie for like 2 weeks straight. Probably to this day, that I destroyed her. So she's telling the nurse, my friend. So we're going back to 10 hours before the fire. 10 hours before the fire, my friend, the nurse, runs into my psycho ex, and my psycho ex just immediately starts going into how I destroyed her RV. And so the nurse is totally confused because remember, she is a mutual friend. She has no skin in the game at all. She has no reason to take either side. And my psycho ex is telling the nurse that I destroyed her RV, and the nurse is getting more and more confused because she can't first, and she admitted to me, and also she told my psycho ex the same thing. She's like, I can't see this guy doing this. I've known him for like 3 years. I cannot picture this guy fucking destroying your RV. I'm confused. I'm confused when you, and so the nurse starts to ask questions. She's like, look, when you say he destroyed your RV, I can't picture him doing that because it's so out of character for him. So, I mean, when you saying he destroyed your RV, what was he like taking like the pillows and ripping them apart and the upholstery and ripping it apart and stuff? Or was it like appliances where he was taking the refrigerator and throwing it down? Like, when you say he destroyed your RV, like, what do you mean? Which is a fair question. And immediately my psycho ex shifts the entire, that's how she is. When she's asked questions about, well, what do you mean when you say this? She immediately like switches. And again, this girl, we lived together for 3 years. I've never known her to lie or be a liar or anything. Like, this bitch went like completely demon possessed overnight, bro. I'm telling you. So the nurse is like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? And so then she immediately shifts the subject and she says, and she basically tells the nurse that I relapsed, that I'm doing drugs and shit and drinking and stuff. And then the nurse gets even way more tripped out. She's like, what? She's like, dude, no, that is the most important thing in this guy's life is sobriety and stuff. I just can't understand. Like, I can't see him doing any of this. Like, right? And then amidst all of this, and the nurse is totally confused. Like, I don't understand. Then a guy comes up and offers my psycho ex $5 to watch his bicycle. And the nurse is totally tripped out on this interaction because the nurse is telling me that as soon as that guy showed up with the bicycle, her personality completely changed. And she was looking at this guy like in awe, like that he's this wonderful guy. And so there was some kind of weird connection between the guy and the bike and her, and she immediately changed her whole person like a demon possessed, motherfucker. I'm telling you. And the nurse was tripped out, and the nurse didn't know about any of this story. She didn't know anything. That's why it all caught her by surprise. But the nurse was very really emphasized how strange this interaction between the guy with the bicycle and my psycho ex was really strange. And that she was suspicious that guy is somehow connected to him or something, right? So the nurse tells me all this shit. And apparently the nurse knew about the fire too. So then the fire was like, I don't even think it was, so the nurse saw my psycho ex at like 6 in the evening. And the fire happened at 3 a.m. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3. So it was 9 hours after. And so my psycho ex is telling everybody that I destroyed her RV and telling the nurse like this big lie, total, like complete lie. And then 9 hours after the nurse hears this big story of how I destroyed her RV and I'm doing drugs and all, then 9 hours later, the fucking RV gets burnt up along with the 4-bedroom house and the fucking and the storage building. And immediately on Facebook, because this town has its own Facebook page, immediately after the fire, not even just like hours, a couple hours or something after the fire, her psycho friend, her witch cult friends are posting in this public Facebook page, this town's Facebook page, that I'm an arsonist and that I burnt it down because I'm mad because my psycho ex dumped me for another guy, and I just went postal and burnt the place down. And then a bunch of people in the town believed it. when I didn't even get back into town until a week later. And people in this town are saying that I burnt the fucking place down. I wasn't even there. I didn't even get back till a week later. I mean, my boss, I was with two of my bosses and like 3 or 4 of my coworkers. We were all working in Houston and Dallas the whole fucking time. So I've got tons of witnesses, you know what I'm saying? Like everybody knows. And all my coworkers and my boss knew it happened because we were all riding from fucking Houston to Dallas. We were halfway to Dallas when I got the fucking phone call that the whole place burnt down. And so I'm telling my boss, she's sitting right next to me. I'm telling my boss and everyone else. So then after the nurse tells me this story, then I have this massive story to tell her that I'm trying to storyboard. So I've got this massive story. So when I'm telling the nurse all of this other shit, she is like completely blown away. She's like, oh my fucking God. Because we're talking about Todd Minshall's death, a murder, death threats, fucking all kinds of crazy shit, BDSM bondage straps and leather whips, witchcraft, fucking all the, like, and that this bitch just overnight, my psycho ex just overnight went fucking completely demon possessed overnight. And this nurse chick, she was just like, and because she believed me, but also because, see, this is what I'm saying about how my need for people here, because I got people I could talk to that I've known for years, but to have somebody here that I could talk to, because then a lot of this can get corroborated. So we could drive past and look at the fire. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like people that know me here in this town. And I was lucky that the nurse, that me and the nurse ran into each other that first day I got back. Because I'm telling you, I was alone. I came back alone, unarmed, with no fucking plan. No backup, unarmed, and I have no idea what the fuck I'm going to do. Then I run into the nurse the first day I get back. And she's got this whole story to tell me. It's like, oh my God, okay. You ready for a crazy story? And so I'm telling her this story, and so she lives like 30 miles away. And she has a fucking nice big house, big spread. She's got fucking quad runners. She's got 4 dogs, including 1 or 2 German shepherds. She's fucking armed to the teeth. Her deceased husband was some kind of Hell's Angel or something, and they were all about guns, and so she's fucking armed to the teeth. And so she's living there by herself because her husband passed away like 4 years prior or something. And so that day she's like, fucking, I follow her fucking to her house, and she fucking throws down the fucking blankets, and there's a couch, or she's got a big fucking house, like 3-4 bedroom house. Fucking 4 dogs, armed to the fucking teeth, dude, like guns galore, shit like this. So then I go, I'm like at an undisclosed location, so I lucked out, man, in that sense. And I got to stay with her for like 2 or 3 months, and she's retired, and so we would just spend hours going over this whole story. We would just spend hours. We'd sit outside and build a fucking fire and she was really wanted to know, and she would listen, and we would try to figure this out together because there's so many pieces of the puzzle. But see, because she's here and she knows me and she knows my psycho ex and she knows like this town and everything, it's more easier for her to believe this insane story. So she's listening to me. And we're both, you know, for hours we would talk, trying to piece this puzzle together. And so she uses Facebook, I don't. And she's always, because she's so familiar with Facebook, I stopped using Facebook like over 10 years ago. And because she's so familiar with Facebook, learned how to use Facebook as kind of an investigative tool where you can actually use Facebook to kind of look at shit so we started investigating using her Facebook access and the internet. And by using the internet, first of all, we were to find out the date of Todd Minshall's death, which was something that I was asking the police for, which they wouldn't tell me. Okay, it ended up it was public information, but it didn't say how he died or nothing. It just said this gentleman died on such and such a date and blah blah. Just nothing. It was just nothing. It just said that he died, but it had a little section where other people could comment, and his daughter ended up commenting, which his daughter was Sheila. So Sheila is the main one. If you go back to the event of the storyboard, Sheila was basically Todd Minshall's wife. And the story, the official story, was that Sheila and Todd got in a big argument around 3 a.m. and then Todd fucking stormed out with a bottle of booze and his gun and wandered off into the desert and guzzled a bunch of booze and shot himself in the head. But there was no, when they found his body, there was no gun. So, and then the police department covered it up. And their official reason for covering it up was because they didn't want to taint the investigation. So it was all a big clusterfuck of nothing but total chaos and confusion. And I'm the only one in town that was told by the police that it is under investigation. Meanwhile, the police department is telling the whole town that there is nothing going on. It's all rumor. So I'm like the only person that knows that the police have a official investigation. When in reality, the police weren't really investigating it. They were just working on sweeping it under the rug. This is all confirmable. This is all true. And to this day, I'm the only person that the cops told that it was under investigation. They told the entire town that there was nothing had happened, it's all rumor. To this fucking day. It's such bullshit, bro. But anyways. Okay, so the nurse is using Facebook to investigate this shit. So we were, because the daughter had posted a comment on the obituary, online obituary, and I believe Sheila did as well. Maybe not sure. But we looked up the daughter's name on Facebook, and boom, there it was, boom. And I had already had access to my Psycho X's Facebook page during the event, because if you remember, she left her Facebook page logged in. And so when I opened up the computer, her Facebook page was open. And I could see, I was logged into her Facebook page because she never logged out of it on the computer. So I was looking, so I saw Sheila's Facebook and all this shit. This was, a month prior or something. So it took us we had to do a lot of dot connecting to figure out what Sheila's Facebook page was. But then we found it, and it's called Angel Eyes or something like that. So it wasn't her name. Maybe it was just Angel. I can't remember exactly. Angel something. Of course, a witch. But then we found her Facebook page. So we're using Facebook to try to, to see what kind of clues. And so the nurse was the one that was like, once we saw her Facebook page, well, it was public. Sheila's Facebook page is public. Again, it took us a little while to figure out which was her Facebook page, but then it was like, that's the one. When I saw it, I was like, that's it. We click on it, it's public, it ain't even private. So the nurse was the one that was like, well, we know the date that Todd Minshall died, and her Facebook page is public. So let's scroll through her Facebook page to the date that, around the date that Todd Minshall died, to see like what she was posting. And so we're scrolling through, and there's all this witchcraft shit posted all over her Facebook. And she's this short, fat, ugly, stupid fucking old woman who's like maybe 58 or something. And she's short and she's fat and she's stupid looking and she's got pink hair. And she's posting all this witchcraft stuff, and she's posting like she's Billy Badass. She's just the queen of the town, right? She's queen of the underground. That's the way she presents herself on Facebook, which is such a joke because she's such a pathetic retard. Like that woman is like, we have to keep fighting because we just have to. Hail Satan. You know, it's the same dumb shit. So we scroll through Sheila's Facebook page to the date, because Todd Minshall's, the date he died was June. I remember that, June 20th. Yeah, it was June 20th of 2022. That's not that hard of a date to remember. June 20th of 2022. You got 2022 in June. So 6/06/2022. There's probably some 666 connection to that date too. 06/20/2022. Okay. So anyways, so we scroll down to that date, and then we're looking at all the posts that she's posted. And she didn't post nothing about. It was like another day. It was just like another day on Facebook to her. She didn't post stuff about, oh, my husband died. She didn't post nothing. She was just posting like it was any other day. So we scrolled a week prior, just nothing. Then the day, just like it was just another day. Then like a week after Todd's death, still nothing. It was all just more of the same goofy, dumb, witchcraft, stupid bullshit that she posted. You know, queen of the underground. Like it was like it never happened when you look at her Facebook page. I mean, it's like, come on. So then we start looking into my Psycho X's Facebook page, and she's got it set to private, but you can still, you can see some stuff when somebody's page is set to private. But we noticed that her Facebook page is still active, and we could see that she's posting, because if she posts on like the town's Facebook page, you can see it. And so the nurse is using a Facebook as a tool, investigative tool, and we're seeing that she's posting. We can see posts here and there, recent ones. Now, when the fire happened, rewind back to October 15th or 13th or whatever it was. When the fire happened, it was all over the town's Facebook page. And all these people were saying, this poor girl lost everything in a fire. And a city councilwoman even made a post on the town's Facebook page. Same thing. This poor girl, we're doing everything we can. We're going to help her she lost everything. She barely escaped with her life. And, you know, this poor girl, no mention of me at all. It wasn't like, oh, is the guy okay? Is her boyfriend? No, it's all just this poor girl lost everything in a fire. And that's the thread where people were accusing me that I'm an arsonist and I did the fire because I'm this disgruntled ex-boyfriend that went postal. The same thread that the fucking councilwoman is saying, oh, this poor girl. So they're telling the city councilwoman that I started the fire in this fucking Facebook page. And the city councilwoman is saying, we're helping her. We're going to get her housed and do all this stuff for this poor innocent girl that lost everything in the fire. So, you know, I mean, everything about this is nothing but bizarre. It's just constant. Everything is bizarre. Like all of it's just like retarded. And so me and the nurse, we're just shocked at all this. We're like, oh my God, dude, like this is pure insanity. And so she's lost everything. Everybody's talking about how she lost everything, and she's, we got to help this girl and everything. And it had been like a month since the fire, at least. But we see she's still active. So she's got internet. And so I brought that up to the nurse. I said, well, if she lost everything in the fire, and she doesn't have a job, and she doesn't have anything, and this poor girl, the whole town needs to rally around this poor innocent girl who was being picked on by me, the big bad wolf, and she, all ridiculous, just fucking pure lies. Well, but how can she afford to, be paying for her cell phone and be, Facebooking and posting Facebook? And so the nurse thought that was a good question. She's like, that's a good question. And so the nurse says, well, I have this anonymous phone number that I can use, and we can call her to see if her phone's on. To see, maybe she's not active anymore. Maybe, we don't know, but it seems like it. But well, let's try. We could confirm if she's still, because by this point, dude, it's like obvious she's drug trafficking and doing all kinds of shit. So we're doing an investigation since the cops aren't doing shit, right? So the nurse offers, well, why don't we just call her phone? And because if the phone got shut off, it won't, But then we realize, well, if we call, we're going to have some kind of story in the event that she answers the phone. Like, we're going to have to create some kind of lie, right? And so we're discussing all this before we make the phone call. And then we realize, well, okay, if she answers, we can just hang up, or I can't remember exactly how the plan went, but we did have to have a backstory in case. And so we called, and it rang, so we knew that her phone, she was somehow still paying to keep her phone on, even though she lost everything, and but she didn't answer. And so she didn't answer. And so we just hung up, and we're like, okay, well, we know that somehow she's getting money, And then a few minutes later, my Psycho X texts back. And this is something out of character for her too, because when I was with her, whenever she would get a phone call from a strange number, she would never answer it, and she would always decline it. And she would always kind of like talk about how, I'm not fucking answering these phones, because she would. So based on me living with her for 3 years, I've always known her to completely ignore any unrecognized phone numbers. Like she would never respond to them or nothing. Maybe that was part of her lie, or maybe, I don't know. But from what I always knew of her, she never cared about phone numbers that, like mystery phone numbers or mysterious phone calls. She would just decline them and block the number or whatever. She wouldn't even think about it. But this time, she immediately responds back with a text, which surprised us. We were both like, whoa, she's texting. And so then we read the text, and in the text she's like, hey, who's calling me? I've been having a bunch of problems with my phone, and I lost a bunch of contacts, so I'm not sure who is this? And then that's when we realized we really needed to use our backstory. So we were reading it, and we were surprised that she responded. And then we were like, okay, what are we going to say? And the nurse had already had a lot of practice doing these kinds of things. And she was telling me stories of crazy people that she ended up having to do this kind of stuff with. And so she knew what to do. And so the backstory was that, and so what we did is we thought about it, and we looked at her Facebook friends, and some of her Facebook friends were people that I knew she was hanging out with, that were neighbors to Sheila and Todd. One of them, the guy's name is Aaron. So we took the name Aaron. We said, okay, We're just going to say our name is Aaron. And our backstory is that we're trying to get a hold of Joe because we have the brake parts for Joe's quad runner, you know, and so we got the parts, and we're trying to get them to Joe. So that was our backstory. So then we texted her back and we said, "Hey, this is Aaron. I got the shit. So when are you coming to get it?" That's all we said. "This is Aaron. I got the shit." And we're not sure what to expect. I mean, I'm thinking she's probably going to be like, "You got the wrong number" or something. So then she immediately responds and she's like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm out with Ray right now. We're out, prospecting for gold or some shit. And so I'm out with Ray, but I'll be back in a few hours." And we're looking at like, what the fuck, right? So we're like, what the fuck? But we thought it was very strange. It was very strange. We're like, this is weird. And so then we texted back and we're like, "Okay, just let me know when you get back." And then she texts back, so, "Okay, yeah, I'll let you know." So then we don't hear nothing from her. So then the next day we decide, well, fuck it. Let's see what transpires if we keep this going, because she thinks that we're somebody, and she must be thinking that we're Aaron, her friend, who's part of this whole witch cult thing, friends with these witches and shit. And Aaron was one of the people that was saying on the town's Facebook page that I fucking burnt the place down. Okay. So we text back the next day. We're like, "Hey, are you gonna pick up this shit or what?" And then she texts back. She's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I totally forgot." And she's like, "Yeah. So where is it? Do you have it on the porch? Is it on the porch?" And then we looked at that and we're like, what the fuck? What does she think that we were talking about when we're saying we got the shit? Which just confirms that like she's trafficking drugs and all this other stuff. A few months after this, on a side note, I found out they're all tweakers, which is totally confirmed. This is not bullshit. That whole corner is a fucking tweaker infestation. And so it's all about all this shit. But again, this is all new to me, because she was doing all this behind my back, including conspiring behind my back with all these witches and tweakers and shit. So I didn't know nothing about any of these people. So she's like, "Yeah, okay, I'm gonna get the stuff. Where is it at? Is it on the porch?" And we're like, so then we talk about it for a little bit, and we decide, okay, we're gonna what. So what we texted her back is that we said, "Fuck no, I'm not leaving this shit on the fucking front porch. You want somebody to come and steal your shit or something?" And then that's when she texts back and she's laughing. She's like, "LMAO, oh, you must have the wrong number. I think you have the wrong number, LMAO," and all this shit. And then she doesn't stop there. She keeps going. And she's like, this happened to me just a few days ago. The same thing happened, LMAO. She keeps saying MLAO and all that like stupid shit. And we're just like, what the fuck? And so then we're realizing she is opening the door to have a random conversation with a complete stranger, which is another thing. She totally out of character. I lived with this bitch for 3 years. She would never, at least not to my knowledge, just start striking up a conversation with a complete and utter stranger, like totally nobody. And then she texts back again and says, she's like, "Your area code is Phoenix. Do you live in Phoenix?" And we're just completely blown away. We're like, I can't believe this bitch is just going to start striking up a conversation with a complete and utter stranger. And so then we're like, okay, let's roll with this. Let's see what happens. So then we start saying, then we realize we need to create a character in order to keep this believable, to keep this interaction going. So we got the name Aaron. So then the nurse pulls up a picture of somebody on the internet that isn't like, it's just like a person, okay? And it's a guy, and he's like in his mid-20s, and he's semi-handsome, and he's kind of goofy. And so we get that picture. We're like, this is Aaron, you know. And I was just watching a movie. It was a Leonardo DiCaprio movie where the guy's name was Glass. His last name was Glass. So we decided Aaron Glass, and then here's a picture of it. So we're getting all this ready, our backstory ready. So then we start texting her back, and we're like, yeah, I live in Phoenix. You know, so I'm Aaron. I live in Phoenix, and then we're like, where do you live? Where are you from? I mean, I think that's what's the area code that you're at again? And then she says where she lives, and we're like, whoa! Like she's just telling him where she lives and everything, right? And so we're like, oh, okay, well, what's there to do in that town? What's it like in that town? I've heard of that town. What's it like there? And then we said something like, I heard it's just a bunch of old people living there and stuff. And so then to try to keep the conversation going. So long story short, we end up having this long drawn out like conversation where we're talking about partying and going to clubs and what does she do, and she likes to party and blah 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 and all this, and then she's telling us that she's sober, which is totally not true at all. Like I'm laughing, like she's saying she's sober, and we're like, well, sober from everything, or do you do mushrooms or maybe other stuff? And she's like, yeah, no, I eat psychedelic mushrooms and DMT, but I'm sober, but you know, so she's like acting like that you know. She's sober, but so she's like California sober. So she's sober, but she also eats psychedelic mushrooms and blasts off on DMT and all this other shit for spiritual purposes. And we're just laughing our asses off like this bitch is so dumb, dude. And then we start talking, like, right? And so we're like, yeah, no. And then we create this character. So that Aaron's character is like, well, I've thought about getting sober before because, you know, sometimes I drink too much and I've gotten in trouble, like being blackout drunk before. So we're just bullshitting her, like, man, it's so cool that you're sober, even though we're laughing because she's saying she's sober, but then she eats psychedelic mushrooms and blasts off on DMT, but she's sober. So we're just kind of like, we're laughing at her because she's so stupid, but we're trying to play it up like, man, that's so cool that you're sober. I have some people tell me I have a drinking problem and I've gotten in trouble and I've thought about quitting drinking and stuff. And then we start going that angle with her where we're like, how do you stay sober and stuff? Like, how do you do it? And then she starts texting back all this stupid shit about, you know, tuning forks and Reiki and all this new age faggot stupid bullshit, and we're just laughing like, wow. And then we're like, well, we wanted to keep it going, right? And then we sent her the picture. We're like, well, hey, this is what I look like. Here's a picture of me. Let's trade pictures. Send me a picture of you. Here's a picture of me. So we started trying to flirt to see where that would go. And then she immediately sends a picture of herself, and then she's telling him everything like that she has 2 kids, and starts telling him her life story. And I mean, this is on day 2, and she's just like starting to tell him her life story, where she lived, how many kids she has, where she lives now. Here's a picture of her. And it's just like, wow, man, like this bitch is, I mean, who does this? And at this point, I'm telling the nurse, I'm like, dude, you could send her a dick pic right now, and she would still keep this conversation going. This is how fucking completely fucking batshit psycho this bitch is. You could send her a dick pic right now. And the nurse is laughing. She doesn't believe me. I'm like, dude, I'm telling you. And then she's like, okay, well, later on, let's keep the thing going with her, and then we'll try that experiment. And so then we want to play hard to get with her, right? Because she likes to be treated like shit. Obviously, you know, she doesn't. She has no respect for men that are nice to her. She only has respect for men that treat her like shit. And so we're like, okay, so we need to be tactful about how we interact with her. We don't want to be too, you know, appear too forward. So we're playing it cool. And so then we're just like, well, hey man, so then the last text for that night is like, well, I'm heading out to the fucking bar. I'm going to the club. I'm gonna go party with some bitches and shit, and I'll talk to you later, man. You know, we keep it all cool like that, and then so then she's texting back, you know, like desperate. It's like a stupid desperate girl. She, oh well, you know, yeah. Let me know how it was, how your night goes, and you know, all this just total pathetic, right? So we can't believe this. We're just like in awe. We're like, wow. So I'm gonna leave it there. But do you see, like, so let me just end it with this. I'm trying to just grab like the most glaring things, but as you can see, there's just tons of glaring things. These are all glaring things, and then they end up being long drawn out stories. So right now we're going into the section of the story which would be the chapter, I guess, would be called Aaron Glass, because so right now we're fooling this dumb bitch. She thinks we're some guy named Aaron Glass, and we sent her a picture of us, and we live in Phoenix, and she's like, you know, drinking the Kool-Aid like nobody's business and sending pictures back and telling her life story and flirty and everything else. And so this is the Aaron Glass section. And so, but this is important because it segues into more insane shit. So this just story goes on and on. So I'll end it there because this is a long fucking video.